Welcome to SwarmCast, the marketing hive for pest control pros from coast to coast. If you're tired of your competition bugging you and want to grow your business like a well-built colony, you're in the right place. Each episode, we'll break down the latest marketing trends, expert insights, and proven strategies to help you exterminate the competition and keep your phones buzzing. So strap in, pest bosses. It's time to swarm the market and take your business to the next level. This is SwarmCast.
Welcome to the SwarmCast. We have a special guest, Brandon Davis. You're going to want to listen to Brandon because if you have AR, everybody does. He's got a solution for you with Interval AI. He's been doing this for a while. He's the co-founder and CEO. But get this, he came from doing this manual process for another pest control company back in the day with Hawk. He was a sales office manager doing the job that nobody wanted to do. And no doubt while he was doing that, you're going to hear the whole story, how he came up with this solution. He also has his own podcast. I got to jump on that one if he'll have me. And can't wait to listen more to you. Welcome to the show, Brandon Davis.
Thanks for having me, Wyatt. Yeah, we'll definitely get you on the podcast here pretty soon.
All right, Brandon, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little about Interval AI and a little bit of history. We want to hear all about your company and how this thing got started.
Yeah, I feel like I got to start with the preface story here, so it actually makes sense. I used to work for Hawks Pest Control out in Nashville, Tennessee, for a few years, kind of both in and out of the office. Did the sales side, did the office side, so a little mix of the roles. And part of my job was going out and doing kind of collections calls for customers that went overdue on their balances. So going out, and if a customer signed up for their quarterly pest control service, often, as we know, those customers go overdue a lot of times on their payments. And I just remember the old ways of doing it were the most inefficient processes. We'd get a list of customers. I would start calling them at random times throughout the day, sometimes shoot them an email. It was very, very ineffective. And I was thinking, wow, I'm getting paid to do this, but this is not a great use of time. So over the course of the next year or two, as I kept working there, I realized that something needed to change, and that's kind of where Interval was born. I knew I always wanted to stay close to pest control and home services specifically, but I also knew that my path going forward wasn't just always going to be an office role, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. But that's kind of where Interval was born. So we, for anyone who hasn't heard of Interval, we do automated accounts receivable and first-party debt collection. So we work with all different types of home service businesses and other industries across the US now to help them manage if customers go overdue on their payments. Our software will step in, act almost just like a billing agent internally for a team, but obviously do it at a fraction of the cost and more data-driven. So usually our results are a little bit heftier than when Brandon Davis was getting the list and starting to cold call customers when they were overdue. And that's what our software does in the background. So if you have customers that go overdue on their payments, that's where Interval steps in.
That's awesome. So first of all, you started off doing this collections for Hawk, and then you're like, man, this is just terrible. And you know, that's always how a lot of the innovation happens is somebody's doing some job, they don't like it, or maybe it's just like, gosh, I could do a lot more. And it sounds like where that was coming from is you saw an opportunity. So did you take this opportunity to Hawk and say, I can build this for you or do this for you? Or what did you do then? What happened?
Kind of. So yeah, Interval was actually born in an incubator program called Sandbox. There's multiple iterations to the entire thing. If we talked about that, this would be a 5-hour long episode. But when we first launched, we had a couple initial customers in mind, people I'd worked with over there, and other people who had spun off from Hawks into their own pest control companies. So on the very get-go, and I still shout out a lot of our early customers, we had a very, very, very buggy product. It was working halfway decent, but these people rode through it, through the thick and thin with us. And that's kind of where we got started on our journey of kind of stepping into the space a little bit more full force. But at the very beginning, like I said, very nuanced, wasn't super hands-off. It was maybe slightly better than the manual process that we were doing, but obviously that helped us grow into kind of where it's at today.
Yeah, and just so the listeners know, I started off in software engineering as well, trying to solve processes with software. And you know, it can solve a lot of problems, but it's also very expensive to get into. And that's why a lot of, companies don't get into the software game. They're like, man, I got to hire a developer. I got to hire 10 developers. We're going back in the time machine, but developers aren't cheap and they may not be around forever. So what happens when you have a product and you don't have a developer that's, built this thing?
Yeah,
There,
yeah.
yeah. So there's where this huge opportunity existed for software engineering teams to start selling cloud-based software as opposed to installing something on a server. So are you a programmer? Is that something you got into doing, or did you start off looking for some software engineers to help you?
Yeah, good question. I consider myself kind of that guy who has a little bit of experience in everything and is not perfect at anything. So on our team, we have a relatively small team. We have our engineering department, we have our sales department, and then now at this stage in the company, I'm a mixture of sales and operations is mostly my day to day. Obviously, in the age of AI now, a lot of coding and stuff is done through artificial intelligence, and we're obviously an AI first platform and firm believers in that entire approach. But to your point, yeah, I definitely understand the nuances behind getting into the tech space. I have, at this point, we work with a few hundred pest control companies across the US, and it just amazes me how our startup on paper, it's like, okay, we have amazing things going and money's going great now. But in the earlier days, it was so easy. I was just like, why did I start doing this when I could have just launched my own pest company or something else? Because man, there's a lot of processes that we have to dive through, and it's, as you mentioned, very, very hefty upfront costs. But usually, what they say in the software world, right, is it's heavier upfront costs, but then there's usually a heavier return. So just pick your battles.
Yeah, no, that sounds like the path of success there, where you're a visionary. You came up with this thing, and then you worked for other players in the pest control space. Now, here you are serving pest control companies. And what kind of difference are you making with your software, helping them collect their AI or collect their accounting money that's out there that's hurting cash flow? What difference is that making?
Yeah, so I'll preface this too. Interval, a lot of times people are always afraid it's going to be one of those AI tools that's going to disrupt the job market and threaten opportunities and whatnot. And my biggest recommendation for anyone, we consider Interval to be a very powerful tool that can go through and help manage customer communication and first party debt collection. So our goal is not to replace anyone's jobs. We're just trying to enhance the inefficiencies that a lot of companies see within their collections process and the internal collections process, and hopefully redistribute some of their labor into, frankly, let's put it quite blunt, into areas of the business that probably mean a little bit more. What we noticed on the very early stage, and this still reigns true. I say early stage, we're still a pretty young company, but to date, one of our biggest things that people love about working with us is those jobs are really hard to fill. You might get one or two people in the company that have been there for quite some time, but you never want to be the person who's calling the customers, who's emailing the customers, haggling them back and forth and saying, "Hey, remember me? Your local bug guy. We need payment for your last service." It's awkward. Nobody likes doing that job, unless you guys have some outstanding employees. If you do, keep them very near and dear. Usually in the industry, about 4 months is the average lifespan of a employee that's doing full-time collections within a company. So beautiful thing about using Interval, it's going to run in the background. You don't have to worry about taking vacation or quitting or anything like that. That's the beauty of the software side. But also, it's done at a much more cost-effective rate. Anywhere between $15 to $20 an hour is a pretty standard rate for a job like this, or outsourcing it to a third-party agency for 45 to 65% commissions, whereas Interval will run you a couple $100 a month, and it'll run in the background and go and collect any overdue charges that your customers may be facing.
That's awesome. So, what's your ideal customer look like? Are they one truck people? Are they 100 truck people? Where do you come in? Where's the sweet spot for you guys getting involved with the industry?
That's a great question. That was something that we dealt with kind of early on, that we were still kind of testing different areas and whatnot. And I'll say it's still pretty open on the sense we work with some mom and pop shops. I'll call them mom and pop shop pest control companies doing 150,000 to 200,000 a year in total revenue, all the way up to some of your largest on the top 100 list that just came out a couple months ago that are doing 80 million plus a year in revenue. So wide ranging audiences. What I always recommend, if you're an owner out there listening to this podcast, what I always recommend is if you have anywhere between 30 to 40 overdue invoices plus a month, that's usually when you want to start using a tool like Interval, where the cost sense of using a software tool versus keeping it in-house makes sense. Because if you have, less than 10 customers a month, it's not crazy hard. You take 2 hours out of your day and you go and do it, and then you repeat the process. But usually when you start getting that 30, 40, 50 plus range of customers going overdue, that's usually when it's a good fit.
And that could come early for some players. And I'm just thinking
It
about,
can, yeah.
let's just say your one truck chuck,
Yeah, there you go.
but you don't want to come home after you've done the pest work and start doing collections. That's not fun. And
Yeah, like I said, nobody wants to do it. It's the
yeah.
awkward job. You go out and
Hmm.
hopefully, I mean, if you're doing your job right, you're treating the customers home, you're treating it with respect, you're using the appropriate products, you're actually solving their issues. What every
Hmm.
pest control company should be doing, getting rid of the bugs. But at the end of the day, there's plenty of reasons. At this point in our history, we have heard every excuse in the books on why somebody's not paying. They flat out are ghosting a company. They didn't realize they had an overdue balance. The technician stepped on their dog, and so they don't want to pay for it. There's so many different reasons. So what our software is really good at is just getting in sentence and tone with those customers and kind of leveling with them, matching their tonality and their expressions, and just finding a good fit for both the customer as well as the company themselves.
Awesome. So it's going to automate this job. It's going to give you a better outcome, and it can be running all the time, right? It's not like it has to run 8 to 5. It could be running after hours. It could run on the weekends. It could, I mean, give me an idea of like workflow as far as when it's operating. Is it outbound voice, or is it outbound SMS, or is it sending emails? What's it doing in the background?
Yeah, great question. So I will caveat this just for legal discretion. We have to contact within the legal hours provided, and we usually actually leave a little bit of gap in there. So we don't start contacting until about 9 in the morning up until about 7:30 p.m. Usually we have a little buffer period in there because you technically can contact longer than that, but we don't want to take any risks. And then for the most part, we turn it off on all major federal holidays, no Sundays or anything like that. Once again, every state's going to be a little bit different on your compliance and what you're allowed to do, but across the board, we just try and keep it very customer friendly. If the customer is not going to get pissed off at somebody for reaching out to pay their overdue charge, it's already a touchy subject. Let's try and alleviate some of that stress to begin with. On the background, though, getting back to your question on how Interval actually works, kind of depends on what systems you're using. We have integrations like Field Routes and other providers inside of the space. We'll kind of go with that example. If you are a Field Routes customer, we connect directly with their API keys, where any of the overdue customers, we automatically pull them into our system. Interval, like I mentioned, it'll start doing the entire outreach process just like a human agent would, but it's all data driven. We'll figure out the best time of day to contact someone, the best contact method, how we should actually respond back and forth with the customers, those kind of situations. Get those customers to pay, and then we go back and reconcile it within Field Routes. If you're using a platform like Gorilla Desk or something that we don't have a direct integration with yet, still very simple process. You just upload a CSV file rather than having it just pull automatically. So it saves you about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes of work every week, but still relatively simple on that end.
That's awesome. So you're working with some bigger players out there. You're doing some amazing things already in the field. What do you have on the horizon? What would you like to be able to do next 6 months? Are we going to see you at Pest World, by the way? Am I going to see you up there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So anyone going
Okay,
to Pest
right
World,
on.
we just got back from 2 weeks ago, Pest Expo Dallas. And so we'll be out at Pest
Hmm.
World in a couple months. Yeah, it'll
Right
be great.
on. Yeah, we'll see you up there in October in Florida. That'll be fun to connect over there. But
Yeah,
I'm
Orlando.
just
It's
thinking
a great
about,
place.
yeah, Orlando. I'm working on a book right now. I'm trying to get this thing knocked out, and I want to bring this to Pest World, which is all the AI tech enabled tech. So I'm going to be inviting you, Brandon, to write some pages on your product and how AI is changing this bill collection
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that'd
stuff
be awesome.
in the industry. Yeah, want you to have whatever you want to write about how your AI technology is changing the industry. A lot of people like to talk this real high level junk. It's like, no, how are you using it right now? Well, your software is doing that. It's changing the industry. It's definitely already impacting some of the 100s, and you're even able to come down to the lower levels, which is great. So you're very versatile. I love hearing about what you're doing and how it came to be that you got involved with it from actually doing the work. You did the work. You created some software that actually replaced what you were doing because you saw this need. I'm curious, what else are you going to do in the near future? Is this going to expand out into other things, or are we going to stay in this spot? What does it look like for you, Brennan?
That's a good question. It's funny. I was just talking like I mentioned, we were just at Pest Expo Dallas, and I was talking with a couple of the other companies. AI is the buzzword nowadays. Everyone wants to tag .ai at the end. Pretty soon, you're going to see pest control .ai, and it's going to be some technician claiming he uses AI to determine what products to use. Yeah, there's going to be a million things popping up here in the near future. At the end of it, though, I think everyone, and I was telling this to a guy who was looking into our space for a little bit. They tried some collections, didn't go exactly how they wanted. I said, look, what all these different companies need to do is we need to kind of like you're doing with your book. We need to band together, everyone kind of stick in their lane and perfect something as much as you possibly can. Because that's where it's going to drive the most value. And then in 5 years from now, as this is becoming more of the mainstream and everyone's more readily adopting these kind of technologies, then we can figure out some partnerships with all the different cool companies and everyone work together. That's the world I see us going to, and that's the world I hope we go towards. We just seen firsthand when you try and do this whole spray and pray method of, all right, I'm going to solve this and then add this additional feature and this one and that one. It never works how you want. It's too finicky. Your product it declines when you spread yourself too thin. So out on the horizon for us, what our customers, anyone who is interested in using us in the future can expect, we're going full fledged accounts receivable. So any kind of process that your company faces in accounts receivable, whether that be the forecasting, the reconciliation, obviously the collections is what we're nailing right now. Kind of anything in between when it comes to accounts receivable and your metrics that go along with that. That's where Interval is going to stay.
It's awesome. It's really great tech. Awesome to see a young entrepreneur knocking this out of the ballpark and doing things that need to be done in this industry from firsthand experience. We're gonna hear a lot from you. Want to include you in the book. Definitely want to introduce you to the mastermind that we have going on. It'll be interesting to bring up this topic in the near future and talk about, hey, what's everybody doing for their collections? What are they doing in AR? It'd be great to hear more from you. What I'd like to do is also see kind of a demo where, if that's not on your website already, is how does that look workflow wise and what somebody can expect. If I was saying, hey, high level case study, somebody brings you in, let's just say that they're typical in the industry with their AR, what kind of improvement will they be looking at within 30, 60, 90 days?
Yeah, great question. Usually, and I'm going to knock on wood here on our desk for a second. Usually, what we see is our companies that use us make their subscription back within the first day or two of using Interval. So we're at a price point where we're literally saying, hey, for preface this for our business standpoint, obviously we love working with customers that have overdue accounts receivable. That's why we're a business. But on the business perspective, I get it. It's very frustrating that you even need a tool like Interval. You just wish your clients would pay their bills on time and not have to deal with anything. So our goal is to alleviate as much stress as we possibly can when it comes to these business owners who are already facing payroll issues, cash flow restraints, everything like that. So like I said, usually we try and aim for somebody making their monthly subscription back within first day or two. On that sense, we usually, depending on the size of the company, how much AR they actually have inside of their books, are saying around $5,000 to $10,000 collected on any given month. Obviously, your smaller shops, you're going to see a little bit less because they don't have that much outstanding. But some of your larger companies, that's typically what we're seeing across the board as far as internal collections go.
That's awesome, man. Do you have any like special stories of what you were able to do that goes way above and beyond that maybe was one of those stories that you told early on that was just you were just so excited that you were able to solve their problems and how much of an impact it made on their business? Any stories like that?
Yeah, we had one. This was probably about 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago, somewhere in there, that we made our longest to date collection. Usually, what I recommend to people is there's a time and place for a third party collector versus a tool like Interval, and where you maybe need legal counsel involved. The issue with that sometimes is it's not worth actually getting involved in that sense because the customer is not worth how much they owe compared to how much legal counsel would cost. But we had one and somebody started using us, and we usually recommend, all right, use our software between 3 days overdue to maybe 200-ish days overdue. And we had somebody who plugged it in, and they had customers who were 500 plus days overdue. And just a couple months ago, we reached our new record of an overdue account. We collected at 541 days overdue, which we were like, wow, our system sometimes shocks ourselves on that sense. So our customer, obviously, they were super happy. Everyone was like, wow, can't believe we can go that far back, over a year and a half old. But yeah, that was a pretty cool one.
That's awesome, man. Can't wait to hear more stories like that. If this sound like this is resonating with you and you want to reach out to Brandon, we'll make sure that we put the link in our YouTube video and in our shorts and reels that are out there as well. But this was great. Brand, thanks for joining with us with the SwarmCast, solving a real problem that a lot of people have with accounts receivable and how you can stay on top of it with AI-enabled technology. So thanks for joining us today, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks, Wyatt. You care if I say one final note here?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I'll say this. I feel like I mentioned a minute ago, AI seems to be the buzzword these days, and it feels like everyone's trying to implement it in some form or fashion. There's a lot of cool products out on the market, guys, whether it's ours or I can name a plethora of cool companies that are up and rising. Do what's best for your guys' business. At the end of the day, pest control, it's not something that's going away anytime soon. The processes have been established for quite some time. So make whatever smart decisions you need to. I think there's a lot of ways AI can benefit you, but also if you go in and try and plug every new system into your framework, there's a lot of overload that can happen too. So if anyone needs a sounding guide or anything like that, is why I mentioned my information should be included in the episode description. So feel free to reach out. I'll offer my sounding gear. We actually turn away most customers that actually come inbound to us because it's not always going to be the right fit. So hopefully I can steer you in the right direction, whether it's our product or something else on the market.
Appreciate that, Brand. That's very honest and very insightful for ones that are looking for silver bullets. They don't always exist, but just adding to your stack things that work. That's what we're looking for. So thanks for taking the time to do this podcast and reach out to us as well.
That's a wrap on this episode of SwarmCast. Thanks for tuning in and arming yourself with the marketing firepower to keep your pest control business thriving. Before you scurry off, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave us a review. It helps us spread like a well-placed bait station. Got a topic you want us to tackle? Drop us a line and let's keep the conversation buzzing. Until next time, stay sharp, stay strategic, and keep swarming the market.